The Noahic flood is a sign of God's mercy because even though the human condition never changed through the flood, God preserves this earth so that one day Jesus will come back on this earth, reign on this earth, and his presence will be the new sacred space by which all people can experience God. Well, we see it in Revelation chapter 21, verse 1. When we finally get to the new heavens and the new earth, notice a key detail that is different. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and first earth had passed away. When it says passed away, it doesn't mean it's completely destroyed. It's no longer there because this earth is restored, right? So here's a new restored earth. The earth that you knew as before is not there. But notice this new restored earth. What is different about it? And the sea was no more. Later on, he's going to say the tears are no more. He's going to say the death is no more. What does all these things have in common? He said these are all signs of sin and judgment. So you might be wondering, how is the sea or the ocean a sign of judgment? Where did the seas come from? There was no seas before the flood. It talks about in Genesis 2 that there was a mist from the ground that watered the earth. It didn't come from an ocean that all the stuff. Now, there was a river in Eden from which the river comes. And in the new earth, in Revelation 22, there's still a river there. So clearly, John is not saying there's no water, but he's specifically talking about a certain type of water that's not going to be on the new earth. It's what we know as 2/3 of the world right now, the ocean. Because that was a result of this cataclysmic event of judgment. So when there's a new earth, and he reverses and restores this earth, taking away all the effects of sin, he takes away death, he takes away tears, sadness, pain, and the sea as well. Why is that such a random detail that John includes? Because he knows the Jewish what they're thinking. They hate the sea. They're afraid of the sea. That's why one of Jesus' miracles is to what? Walk on the sea to show he is sovereign over the chaos and uncontrollable. Because to a Jewish person, what does the sea represent? Judgment and chaos. We saw it in Isaiah, saw it in the flood, saw it in the Passover. Every single time, they don't want to go in the sea because that is a sign of God's judgment. Where did it all start from? The flood. And that is the restoration plan where God is not just going to reverse everything, but he's going to restore this earth back to the way it should have been before the flood, before Genesis 3. And so this is the stage for where Jesus is eventually going to return and reign forever. He's going to return and reign on the earth with no more seas, no more sin, no more death, no more tears. The restoration is complete, in other words, by the time you get to Revelation 21. So you might be wondering, why do I say that this is a sign of God's mercy? Because what was the original context of why he even brought the flood? He saw the problem of what? Sin and corruption. But did the problem of sin and corruption get solved through the flood? Did people all of a sudden stop sinning? No. So if God was a just God, he should have sent the flood for every generation after the flood, right? If you're going to be consistent, if I'm going to send someone to jail for 10 years for stealing something, but then the next day someone steals the same thing, but I don't send them to jail for 10 years, that's not justice anymore. That's what? Mercy. Do you see the difference? We haven't gotten better since Noah's flood. Yet, he hasn't sent a worldwide flood. He hasn't judged this earth. Not because we're getting better. It's because he made a promise that he won't do that anymore because he wants this earth to be restored and renewed and to be the stage for his sacred space, the final temple. And Revelation 22, we know the final temple is no longer a building. It says that Jesus becomes the new temple. It's his presence by which we can meet God. He's the sacred space in the end. It's the glory of Jesus shining from the new Jerusalem. That explains why Jesus, remember in John chapter 2, he went to the temple and said, destroy this in 3 days. They didn't understand it because why? Jesus is talking about the new sacred space, the new temple is me. I'm not talking about a building that you're going to rebuild. He's saying, my body is going to die and resurrect 3 days later to show you the new temple and the new sacred space that you're going to meet God. So it's no longer we're returning to a new Eden, we're returning to a new temple. And that temple happens to not be a building or a place, but is a what? A person. Jesus says, I am the light of the world. That concept comes again from the creation account of light in the presence. Right? Every single I am statement points to these things. Actually, if you look at Jesus' miracle, he's pointing it all, using all to point forward to this final new creation of restoration. Because what does Jesus do? He brings order from chaos. Because of the sin, because sin entered, what happened to people? They become blind, lame, sick. That didn't exist in Genesis 1 to 2. Remember, no more disease in the final earth? Well, how do you know that's going to happen? Jesus says, let me give you a preview of what it's going to look like on the new earth. This blind person is not going to be blind, so I heal him. This lame person is not going to be lame, so I heal him. Anyone in my kingdom will have no effects of sin anymore, physically and spiritually. So, the Noahic flood is a sign of God's mercy, because even though the human condition never changed through the flood, God preserves this earth so that one day Jesus will come back on this earth, reign on this earth, and his presence will be the new sacred space by which all people can experience God. It's a return back to Eden, but it's now manifested across the entire world, the new earth.